Hello friends, this is Ananya from Audio Stories for You. Here I'm back again with one of the short stories written by Satyajit. The story is Bepin Chowdhury's Lapse of Memory. So, let's begin. Every Monday, on his way back from work, Bepin Chowdhury would drop in at Kalicharan's in New Market to buy books, crime stories, ghost stories and thrillers. He had to buy at least 5 at a time to last him through the week. He lived alone, was not a good mixer, had few friends and didn't like spending time in idle chat. Today, at Kalicharan's, Bepin Babu had the feeling that someone was observing him from close quarters. He turned round and found himself looking at a round-faced, meek-looking man who now broke into a smile. "I don't suppose you recognize me." "Have we met before?" asked Bepin Babu. The man looked greatly surprised. "We met every day for a whole week. I arranged for a car to take you to the Chowdhury Falls in 1958 in Ranchi. My name is Parimal Ghosh." "Ranchi?" Now Bepin Babu realized that it was not he but this man who was making a mistake. Bepin Babu had never been to Ranchi. He had been at a point of going several times but never made it. He smiled and said, "Do you know who I am?" The man raised his eyebrows, bit his tongue and said, "Do I know you? Who doesn't know Bepin Chowdhury?" Bepin Babu now turned towards the bookshelves and said, "Still you are making a mistake. One often does. I have never been to Ranchi." The man now laughed out. "What are you saying, Mr. Chowdhury? You had a fall in Chowdhury and cut your right knee. I brought you iodine. I had fixed up a car for you to go to Nitarhat the next day, but you couldn't because of the pain in the knee. Can't you recall anything? Someone else you know was also in Ranchi at that time, Mr. Dinesh Mukherjee. You stayed in a bungalow. You said you didn't like hotel food and would prefer to have your meals cooked by a bawarchi. Mr. Mukherjee stayed with his sister. You had a big argument about the moon landing, remember? I'll tell you more. You always carried a bag with your books on it on your sightseeing trips. Am I right or not?" Bepin Babu spoke quietly, his eyes still on the books. "Which month in 58 are you talking about?" The man said, "October." "No sir," said Bepin Babu. "I spent puja in 58 with a friend in Kanpur. You are making a mistake. Good day." But the man didn't go, nor did he stop talking. "Very strange. One evening I had tea with you in a veranda of your bungalow. You spoke about your family. You said you had no children and that you had lost your wife 10 years ago. Your only brother had died insane, which is why you didn't want to visit the mental hospital in Ranchi." When Bepin Babu had paid for the books and was leaving the shop, the man was still looking at him in utter disbelief. Bepin Babu's car was safely parked in Bertram Street by the Lighthouse Cinema. He told the driver as he got into the car, "Just drive by the Ganga, will you, Sitaram?" Driving up the Strand Road, Bepin Babu regretted having paid so much attention to the intruder. He had never been to Ranchi. No question about it. It was inconceivable that he should forget such an incident which took place only 6 or 7 years ago. He had an excellent memory, unless Bepin Babu's head reeled. Was he losing his mind? But how could that be? He was working daily in his office. It was a big firm, and he was doing a responsible job. He wasn't aware of anything ever going seriously wrong. Only today he spoke for half an hour at an important meeting, and yet the man knew a great deal about him. How? He even seemed to know some intimate details. The bag of books, wife's death, brother's insanity. The only mistake was about his having gone to Ranchi. Not a mistake, a deliberate lie. In 58, during the pujas, he was in Kanpur at his friend Haridas Bagche's place. All Bepin Babu had to do was write to... No, there was no way of writing to Haridas. Bepin Babu suddenly remembered that Haridas had left with his wife for Japan some weeks ago and he didn't have his address. But there was the need for proof. He himself was fully aware that he hadn't been to Ranchi. And that was that. The river breeze was bracing, and yet a slight discomfort lingered in Bepin Babu's mind. Around Hastings, Bepin Babu decided to roll up his trousers and take a look at his right knee. There was the mark of an old inch-long cut. It was impossible to tell when the injury had occurred. Had he never had a fall as a boy and cut his knee? He tried to recall such an incident but couldn't. Then Bepin Babu suddenly thought of Dinesh Mukherjee. The man had said that Dinesh was in Ranchi at the same time. The best thing surely would be to ask him. He lived quite near, in Beninandan Street. What about going right now? But then, if he had really never been to Ranchi, what would Dinesh think if Bepin Babu asked for a confirmation? He would probably conclude Bepin Babu was going nuts. No, it would be ridiculous to ask him. And he knew how ruthless Dinesh's sarcasm could be. Sipping a cold drink in his air-conditioned living room, Bepin Babu felt at ease again. Such a nuisance. Just because they have nothing else to do, they go about getting into other people's hair. After dinner, snuggling in bed with one of the new thrillers, Bepin Babu forgot all about the man in Newmarket. Next day in the office, Bepin Babu noticed that with every passing hour, the previous day's encounter was occupying more and more of his mind. If the man knew so much about Bepin Babu, how could he make such a mistake about the Ranchi trip? Just before lunch, Bepin Babu decided to ring up Dinesh Mukherjee. It was better to settle the question over the phone. At least the embarrassment on his face wouldn't show. 235616. Bepin Babu dialed the number. Hello? Is that Dinesh? This is Bepin here. Well, what's the news? I just wanted to find out if you recalled an incident which took place in 58. 58? What incident? Were you in Calcutta right through that year? That's the first thing I have got to know. Wait, just a minute. 58. Just let me check in my diary. For a minute there was silence. Bepin Babu could feel that his heartbeat had gone up. He was sweating a little. Hello? Yes, I have got it. I had been out twice. Where? Once in February, nearby to Krishnanagar, to a nephew's wedding, and then... But you would know about this one, the trip to Ranchi? You were there too. That's all. But what's all this slithering about? No, I just wanted to. Anyway, thanks. Bipin Babu slammed the receiver down and gripped his head with his hands. He felt his head swimming. A chill seemed to spread over his body. There were sandwiches in his tiffin box, but he didn't eat them. He had lost his appetite. After lunchtime, Bipin Babu realized that he could not possibly carry on sitting at his desk and working. This had never happened in the 25 years he had been with the firm. He had a reputation for being a tireless, conscientious worker, but today his head was in a whirl. Back home at 2:30, Bipin Babu lay down in bed and tried to gather his wits together. He knew that it was possible to lose one's memory through an injury in the head, but he didn't know of a single instance of someone's remembering everything except one particular incident, and a fairly recent and significant one at that. He had always wanted to go to Ranchi. To have gone there, done things, and not to remember was something utterly impossible. At 7:30, Bipin Babu's servant came and announced, "Chuni Babu, sir, says it's very important." Bipin Babu knew that Chuni had come for. Chuni Lal had been at school with him. He had been having a rough time lately and had been coming to see him about a job. Bipin Babu knew it was not possible to do anything for him and in fact told him so. But Chuni kept turning up like a bad penny. Bipin Babu sent word that not only was it not possible for him to see Chuni now, but not in several weeks. But as soon as the servant stepped out of the room, it struck Bipin Babu that Chuni might remember something about the 58 trip. There was no harm in asking him. Bipin Babu hurried down the stairs and into the living room. Chuni was about to leave, but seeing Bipin Babu appear, he turned round hopefully. Bipin Babu didn't beat about the bush. "Listen, Chuni, I want to ask you something. You have a good memory, and you have been seeing me off and on for a long time. Just throw your mind back and tell me, did I go to Ranchi in 58? Chuni said, 58? It must have been 58, or was it 59? You're sure that I did go to Ranchi? Chuni's look of amazement was not unmixed with worry. Do you mean you have doubts about having gone at all? Did I go? Do you remember clearly? Chuni sat down on the sofa. Fixed Bipin Babu with a long, hard stare and said, "Bipin, have you taken to drugs or something? As far as I know, you had a clean record where such things were concerned. I know that old friendships don't mean much to you, but at least you had a good memory. You can't really mean that you have forgotten about the Ranchi trip?" Bipin Babu had to turn away from Chuni's incredulous stare. "Do you remember what my last job was?" asked Chuni Lal. "Of course, you worked in a travel agency. You remember that, and you don't remember that it was I who fixed up your railway booking for Ranchi? I went to the station to see you off. One of the fans in your compartment was not working. I got an electrician to fix it. Have you forgotten everything? Whatever is the matter with you? You don't look too well, you know." Bipin Babu sighed and shook his head. "I have been working too hard," he said at last. "That must be the reason. Must see about consulting a specialist." Doubtless it was Bipin's condition which made Chuni Lal leave without mentioning anything about a job. Paresh Chanda was a young physician with a pair of bright eyes and a sharp nose. He became thoughtful when he heard about Bipin Babu's symptoms. "Look, Dr. Chanda," said Bipin Babu desperately, "you must cure me of this horrible illness. I can't tell you how it's affecting my work." Dr. Chanda shook his head. "You know what, Mr. Chowdhury," he said, "I have never had to deal with a case such as yours. Frankly, this is quite outside my field of experience. But I have one suggestion. I don't know if it will work, but it is worth a try. It can do no harm. Bipin Babu leaned forward anxiously. As far as I can make out, said Dr. Chanda, and I think you are of the same opinion. You must have been to Ranchi, but due to some unknown reason, the entire episode has slipped out of your mind. What I suggest is that you go to Ranchi once again. The sight of the place may remind you of your trip. This is not possible, more than that I cannot do at the moment. I am prescribing a nerve tonic and a tranquilizer. Sleep is essential or the symptoms will get more pronounced. Bipin Babu felt somewhat better the next morning. After breakfast, he rang up his office, gave some instructions and then procured a first-class ticket for Ranchi for the same evening. Getting off the train at Ranchi next morning, he realized at once that he had never been there before. He came out of the station, took a taxi and drove around the town for a while. He realized that the streets, the buildings, the hotels, the bazaars, the Murabadi Hill, with none of these had the slightest acquaintance. Would a trip to a Hudro Falls help? He didn't believe so, but at the same time he didn't wish to leave with the feeling that he had not tried enough. So he arranged for a car and left for Hudro in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock the same afternoon in Hudro, two Gujarati gentlemen from a group of picnickers discovered Bipin Babu lying unconscious beside a boulder. When he came around, the first thing Bipin Babu said was, "I'm finished, there is no hope left." Next morning, Bipin Babu was back in Calcutta. He realized that there was truly no hope for him. Soon he would lose everything, his will to work, his confidence, his ability, his balance of mind. Was he going to end up in the asylum? Bipin Babu could not think anymore. Back home, he rang up to Dr. Chanda and asked him to come over. Then after a shower, he got into bed with an ice bag clamped on his head. Just then the servant brought him a letter, which someone had left in the letter box. A greenish envelope with his name in red ink on it. Above the name, it said, "Urgent and confidential." In spite of his condition, Bipin Babu had a feeling that he ought to go through the letter. He tore open the envelope and took out the letter. This is what he read. "Dear Bipin, I had no idea that affluence would bring about the kind of change in you that it has done. Was it so difficult for you to help out an old friend down on his luck? I have no money, so my resources are limited. What I have is imagination, a part of which I used in retribution of your unfeeling behavior. Well, you will be all right again now. A novel I have written is being considered by a publisher. If he likes it enough, it will see me through the next few months. Yours, Chunilal." When Dr. Chanda came, Bipin Babu said, "I'm fine. It all came back as soon as I got off the train at Ranchi." "A unique case," said Dr. Chanda. "I shall certainly write about it in a medical journal." "The reason why I sent for you," said Bipin Babu, "is that I have a pain in the hip from a fall I had in Ranchi. If you could prescribe a painkiller." Thank you.